Hello everyone and welcome back to another Tower Heroes tier list video. So make sure to put on your best angry face and get your angry rage comments ready, because it's time for another Tower Heroes tier list. Woo! Okay, kicking off with Wizard in the Wizard tier. Let's go, because we all know Wizard is Wizard. This is mostly just a joke, guys. Please don't get mad at me. Okay, next up, we're gonna put Balloon. We got Balloon Pal, and we're gonna put him in the Great and Flexible tier. I mean, you can't go wrong with Balloon Pal. Next, we have Bebo. And honestly, call me crazy, but I'm gonna put him in the Great and Flexible tier. He does pretty good single target damage. His, like, his little niche where he kind of flies around is a little funky. Maybe even wacky, you might say. But, I mean, other than that, he's pretty good. I think that he's a little underused. Next up, we have Branch, which is definitely, you know what, like, probably in the front of the Great and Flexible tier. Next up, we have Bunny, which I believe is more of a situational pick. He's really good, but he really shines when you have other teammates using the Bunny. If you have other teammates using Bunny with you, he can be, like, really crazy. Next up, we have Bite, and I am honestly... this is gonna be where I'm gonna start getting some rage comments here. I'm gonna put him in the good tier, mostly because, I don't know, he just takes up a whole tower slot. So if you're doing like single player, that might be kind of expensive when you could just use like El Goblino or something. Next off, we have Chef, and I'm also gonna put him in the good tier. You could use Yasuke, which is why he's in the good tier. I mean, but Chef still is a really good option and is slightly less expensive, because with Yasuke you gotta pay tons of money for the abilities. But like, I mean, other than that, like, Chef and Yasuke, both very good. Next up, we have Discount Dog, which I think goes right below Balloon Pal. I mean, you can't go wrong with Discount Dog either. I mean, it literally gives a discount to like everything in range. So I mean, like, come on. Next up, we have Dumpster Child, and I honestly think he could use a little bit of a buff. I mean, because, like, Mataki exists right now, and Mataki just feels like a better Dumpster Child, because she's cheaper and does crazy damage at low level, which we're going to get to in a moment. Next up, we have Fracture, and I really like Fracture, although I'm actually going to stick him in the good situational tier, mostly because he takes up so much space. So if you're playing on a map that has limited space, you probably don't want to use Fracture, because then there's not going to be much room for your other towers. So now we have Hot Dog Frank, which is going I would say near the bottom of the good tier. Like, Hot Dog Frank is good on raid maps specifically, like, because you can build paths around him to like really maximize the area damage he does. Next up, we have El Goblino, which I honestly think goes near the top of the great tier. Like, he did get a couple nerfs. Like, I think his trap stuns for shorter now, and the crucifix does less damage now, but he is still really insane. Like, his traps, like, his stuns, I mean, you can't go wrong with stuns. The traps do a bunch of damage on top of that. And the cherry on top, he has the crucifix, which instantly does well, if you have Spectre, it instantly does 10% of the boss's HP, which is ridiculous. And it's a 10-second stun, so that's, like, really good. Next up, we have the Scarecrow, and I'm also known as Haze. And I am going to put him in near the top of the good / situational tier. Like, he is really good, does a lot of damage, and can hit the whole map. But I mean, he's just really expensive. Next up, we have Soda Pop, and I'm gonna put him near the bottom of the great / flexible tier, because Soda Pop, really good, does area damage, good damage per second. You can't go wrong. Actually, you know what? I think he's yeah, I'd say Soda Pop's a little better than Bebo. Next up, we have Jester, and now this one's a very controversial one. A lot of people would probably say buff. People would probably put him in the wizard tier, honestly. I mean, look at that cap. You could honestly call him a wizard, probably. But no, some people would probably say he's like bad, or like he should Or maybe Jester should just have Jester tier. No, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm actually, call me crazy, but I'm gonna put him right there in the great tier. Next up, we have Cart Kid, which is going above Jester. I mean, you can't go wrong with Cart Kid. Cart Kid is probably one of the most universally flexible summons. Like, you can use Cart Kid on pretty much any map, and Cart Kid is good. So, any map, any mode, Cart Kid's got you. Okay, now we have Keith, and I honestly think Keith could use a little bit of a buff. His damage per second is a little lacking right now. I feel like they could buff it just a little bit, and he'll be, you know, pretty good. But for now, I just feel like he could use a slight damage buff. Next up, we have Lemonade Cat, which I'm honestly gonna put like very top of the yeah, Lemonade Cat goes very top of the great / flexible tier. I mean, you can't go wrong with Lemonade Cat. Lemonade Cat just gives you money. I mean, it's money. Oh, and this is the tower I forgot about in the last tier list. We have Lure. Now, Lure is actually pretty darn good and has stun resistance, if you didn't know that. If you didn't know that, Lure has stun resistance on all levels, so Lure cannot be stunned. And Lure actually does a lot of damage. Now, Lure is a little expensive, though, so I'm going to put him on the bottom of the tier list. But yeah, Lure is really good. And if he comes back this Halloween, I would definitely recommend you try to get Lure, because Lure is a pretty good tower. Next up, we have Mataki, and I, honestly, hear me out. Nerf. Now, I'm not saying, no, like, she's good. I just feel like they should nerf her lower levels a bit. Like, she just seems like a better dumpster child most of the time. So, like, I think they should just nerf her lower levels. I think her higher levels are probably fine as is. I just think her lower levels need a nerf because she seems a little too strong for how much she costs. Like, maybe they should make her more expensive. Like, maybe make her 600. Next up, we have Beatrice, which I honestly think needs a buff because right now Haze exists. Haze does Beatrice's job way better. Next up, we have Oddport Academy. Now, Oddport Academy, I'm gonna put about here in the good situational. Now, Oddport is insane on raid maps because the guys can make really good use of your paths and keep a really nice healthy distance away from the enemies. And also, if you have Balloon Pal and Spectre, Oddport Academy just goes crazy. So, Oddport Academy is pretty good by itself, but it also does get majorly buffed by other towers. So that's why I think it's in situational, because if you don't have those buff towers, it's not nearly as good. Next up, we have Quinn, which I think will go at the bottom of the great tier. Quinn has pretty good damage and really insane range. He has the second highest... No, Quinn. Oh, I think I said he. Pretty sure Quinn is a girl. Correct me in the comments, please. Sorry if I misgendered this funny little archer. But, okay, yeah. So anyways, Quinn has the second longest range in the entire game and pretty good damage. And the ability slows down all enemies in range, which is just pretty good. Can't go wrong with it. Next up, we have Scientist. Scientist needs a nerf. No, I'm just kidding. Did I fool you for a second? I think Scientist is going to go at the bottom of the great tier. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about Scientist, because Scientist is definitely a controversial one. There are a lot of people that say, oh my goodness, Scientist is crazy OP, always use Scientist. And then there's tons of people also that say Scientist is overrated. And I think I kind of lean towards the Scientist is overrated a bit. Like, Scientist is good in a lot of situations, but I think a lot of people give Scientist a little more credit than she deserves. Next up, we have Slime King, which I'm going to put above on the top of the good / situational tier. Now, the reason I think Slime King is situational because the slimes scale off of the summons scale off of the difficulty level. So if you're playing like easy mode or medium mode, you probably don't want to use Slime King because the slimes won't pack as much of a punch. But if you're playing adventure mode, then the slimes have crazy damage. So if you're playing adventure mode, Slime King, 100% use Slime King. Like, Slime King is really good at adventure mode. Next up, we have Sparks Kilowatt. Now, Sparks Kilowatt is pretty much just lure, but with no stun resistance and longer range, or below lure. I'm going to say they're about the same. Lure and Sparks Kilowatt are pretty similar. They have very similar damage outputs. It's just Sparks Kilowatt has a longer range, and lure has stun resistance. Next up, we have Spectre, which I think, honestly, just deserves very top of the great flexible tier, right? Next up, we have Stella, which I think deserves a pretty high ranking. I'm gonna put her about here. Yeah, that seems like a good spot. Stella is really good. Spawns in drawings that provide a number of different utility. Like, she can spawn in snowmen at higher levels that can slow down guys for a really long time. She also just has a lot of high damage towers that are pretty good. And you can also sell her drawings for money if you need extra money. So next up, we have Vaca or Voca. I don't know how to pronounce her name. Sorry. I honestly think she could also use a bit of a buff, because even though she does have the longest range in the game and she does have splash damage, I feel like her damage is a little too low to justify it most of the time. Like, sure, she has crazy range, but her damage kind of sucks. Like, I feel like they should buff her damage buff, or maybe increase the amount of them you can place, because you can only place 5. You can only place 5 of them at the moment, I'm pretty sure. So maybe if they buffed it to like 6 or 7, that would be good. Or if they buffed the damage, that would also be good. But right now, next up we have Volt, which in my own opinion, I think is a really underrated tower. I'm gonna put him about here, just above Scientist. Like, Volt does insane damage at the start of the game and medium late game. If you just have a bunch of Volts chilling at level 2, and level 2 is really cheap, by the way. So if you just have a bunch of level 2 Volts, you're pretty good. Next up, we have Wafer, and I'm going to be 100% honest. I don't use Wafer very much, but I'm pretty sure Wafer has some good damage. But I feel like there are other towers you could use over Wafer. So I'm going to put her in the good / situational tier. But, you know, feel free to scream at me in the comments if I'm wrong or whatnot. Also, real quick, I think I'm just going to move Chef up a little bit, because I think Chef is good. And, you know, yeah, I think this looks pretty good right now, actually. Yeah, I'm liking how this tier list is looking right at the moment. Next up, we have Yasuke, which, in my opinion, I think goes just below Branch. Like, Yasuke is crazy if you have the money to place a bunch of them, because Yasuke is extremely expensive. Plus, if you have to buy a bunch of the abilities, and that's even more money. But Yasuke does insane damage, and if you pair that with stuns or slows and other things, you just melt, like absolutely melt. So, like, Yasuke, really good tower. Although it does also depend on the map, I guess, because if the map doesn't have a lot of space, then Yasuke might not be very good. But in a lot of situations, I'd say Yasuke is really insane. So anyways, guys, that is my tier list. Feel free to screenshot it and share it wherever you want. I don't really care. And I hope you guys enjoy this tier list. Also, of course, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, so if you think I'm wrong, feel free to slam the comments, put on your best angry or troll face, and just absolutely go ham in the comments down below and scream at me for my poor taste. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, make sure to leave a like on it, and if you're new here, why not subscribe so you don't miss on any other videos like this one. I do post quite a few Tower Heroes videos that you might enjoy. And I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!